Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me at 5 p.m. On Long Island. And there are wicked thunderstorms right now. So if does if this doesn't work out, we may have to abort this mission. So let me know if you guys can hear me okay and see me okay, or if there's quality issues, because I'm looking at the map and literally it's like these crazy thunderstorms are only over my house right now. So if you guys can let me know that we are technically okay, that would be great. And we will move on. Okay, Patroness Glow, thank you. Can hear me and see me? Is the quality good? Hi, Duty Ron. Thanks for coming. Hi, Rochella. Yep. Dawn Marie, hello. Donna Marie, thanks for coming. Magical Mary, good to see you again. And all the Scots are here. Lots of Scots. Okay, Fuzzy Doxy, thank you. It's perfect. Okay. So we had a very busy day today on Long Island. For those of you who have been following the Rex Heuermann Gilgo Beach suspect case, the Suffolk County DA gave a press conference today at noon. This morning, before that press conference happened, I got a bunch of text messages from people who told me that there was this article in the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail published an article this morning with a video, and the title of it was Human Burned Bones Were Found in the Backyard of Rex Heuermann. And so I was very curious because, of course, they've been excavating his backyard for, I think, 9 or 10 days now. And we were very curious about what they were going to find. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, somebody said she can't hear or see me, but I don't know if that's just one person. Okay, it's crazy. This is really crazy. All right, well, we're gonna keep going. So we're gonna find out, because the Suffolk County DA Ray Tierney did a press conference at noon. We had been told that it was 12:30, so I was surprised that when I went to find it, I couldn't find it live anywhere. The only place I could find it live was on News Nation, which luckily my cable provider has, because I think otherwise you have to get it on streaming somehow or on YouTube. But I do have Fios, so they do have News Nation here on Long Island. So Ray Tierney came out and he gave a press conference. And what I want to do is I want to play the press conference. The questions from the reporters are very difficult to hear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop after the question and tell you what the question is before he answers it, and, analyze it from my legal point of view, because I think not only is it important what he said, because he chooses his words very carefully during this press conference, but it's also really important what he doesn't say. So we're going to watch him play a little bit of word salad, and you're going to see what I mean when we get to it. But if anybody has already seen this press conference today, can you put a 1 in the chat? And if you have not seen the press conference, can you put a 2 in the chat? I just want to see how many people have already seen it. So if you have seen it already today, put a 1. If you have not seen it, put a 2. I've seen it already today, put a 1. Okay, Peter Pranzo, you've seen it. Patroness. Okay, there are a couple of people who have not seen it. Scott Messerschmidt has not seen it. Okay. All right, so we're going to play it. It's very interesting, to say the least, but let's take a look.
The Suffolk County Police Department, New York State Police, Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, and FBI, all of whom participated in one way or the other with regard to the search. I really, other than that, I don't have any I don't have anything else to say, but I'm more than willing to take questions. Anybody have questions?
Is there any indication that any woman was killed here in the house?
So there,
Okay, so right away he says, I really don't have anything else to say other than the Suffolk County PD, all the people that were involved in the search. That was the very beginning of the press conference. And then all of a sudden he goes straight to questions. And the first question was, it's hard to hear. Tell me if you can hear the questions. If you can hear the questions, I don't need to read them, but if you can't hear them, I will read them to you. Just need to find my, the notes that I had on this.
there's no, I don't believe at this time that we can say one way or the other. Either evidence does not point either one way or the other. I would say that we have obtained a massive amount of material, which all of which has to be cataloged and analyzed, and it's going to take quite some time.
So the question was, is there any indication that any of these people were killed inside the house? And he said, basically, he's not going to answer that question. People said they couldn't hear the video. So let me just rewind this a little tiny bit and let you hear that again. Tell me if you can hear the video better now.
To the search. I really, Suffolk County Police Department, New York State Police, Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, and FBI, who all of whom participated in one way or the other with regard to the search. I really, other than that, I don't have any. I don't have anything else to say, but I'm more than willing to take questions. Anybody have questions?
Is there any indication that any woman was killed here in the house?
So there's no, I don't believe at this time that we can say one way or the other. Either evidence does not point either one way or the other. I would say that we have obtained a massive amount of material, which all of which has to be cataloged and analyzed, and it's going to take quite some time.
So just a quick follow-up. If a victim's DNA turned up on material in the house, would that indicate perhaps that she was killed here?
So did you hear that question? If a victim's DNA did turn up on something in the house, would it indicate that she was killed here?
So I'm not going to talk about what ifs, but with regard to what, if anything, was recovered, it's going to be, it's not like TV. It's going to be a while for the analysts to do their job. Now it goes from here to trace section, and then to if appropriate, the DNA section. So that's a process.
Yesterday, the police commissioner said that the search was fruitful. Can you elaborate on any of the potential evidence taken from here?
Yesterday, the police commissioner said that the search was fruitful. Can you elaborate on any of the evidence?
I think what he's referring to is the amount of evidence, which is quite a lot. And now it's up to the job of the task force to go through that evidence. And we that's a process, and we need to do that process. But we won't know exactly what we have for quite some time, because just given the sheer volume of evidence that was taken.
One of the other news outlets reports road footage of what looked like burnt bones.
One of the other news outlets reported what looked like burnt bones.
In the backyard. Could you share anything?
I can tell you that there was ground piercing technology used in the backyard, and there specifically there was nothing of note of taken from the backyard as far.
Okay, nothing of note taken from the backyard.
Far as remains, there is a whole entire trace analysis that we have to go through with the house with regard to hair fibers, DNA, blood, which we'll just have to await the results on.
So that indicates to me that they did find stuff in the backyard, not remains, but they did find trace evidence. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay. This is very interesting because this is going to come up several times. With regard to the vault downstairs, we have heard reports that there was a mattress in the vault.
The house in general was cluttered, and there were a lot of guns taken from that.
Subject changed. He was asked about a mattress in the vault, and he pivots to guns immediately. And there's a lot of clutter in the house. Clutter and guns. He does not address the mattress in the vault question.
The house, the defendant had 92 handgun permits. In addition to handguns, he had quite a few long guns as well.
Are there any other properties?
Okay, he had 92 handguns that he had permits for and long guns as well. Okay. He's right. He's watching his words now. That's a retired Irish detective for you. He's watching.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
His words.
There's a number of
Hold on one second. Siri thought I was talking to her and she came on.
locations which we've searched, but we'll keep that to ourselves for now.
Yeah, this has been entered into a national database. The suspect's DNA likely was entered into a national database.
No, he said we're going to keep that to ourselves for now. Let me just rewind because I think we missed something here.
To go through with the house with regard to hair fibers, DNA, blood, which we'll just have to await the results on. The house in general was cluttered, and there were a lot of guns taken from that. The house, the defendant had 92 handgun permits. In addition to handguns, he had quite a few long guns as well.
Are there any other properties?
Are there any other properties that you are searching?
There's a number of locations which we've searched, but we'll keep that to ourselves for now.
Okay, he's not answering that question. So apparently they're searching. They have searched a lot of other areas, but he's not going to tell us what.
Yeah, this has been entered into a national database. The suspect's DNA likely was entered into a national database, state database. Is there any hit with any other unsolved case so far?
Okay. Her question is, if the suspect's DNA likely was entered into a national database or state database, is there any hit with any other unsolved case so far? And this is what we've been wondering about as we've been analyzing this case, whether he's involved in any of these serial murders that are unsolved in other states that are similar in pattern, like Atlantic City.
So, with regard to state and national DNA databases, there are specific rules with that under New York and federal law. Usually that only happens when you have a convicted person is convicted of a crime.
Okay. Did you hear that? So they're asking him about the national databases and the state databases, and he says only when there's a conviction normally. That's what he said. Would that DNA, the DNA of the suspect, Rex Heuermann, be uploaded into national databases? That's what he says, I think. Let's listen.
As far as specifically the database, his DNA has not been entered in that database.
What among the evidence really jumps out? I mean, it's not just something that just stands out among all the rest.
Okay, that question was, what among the evidence really jumps out? Is there any evidence that really stands out among the rest?
What stands out?
We're going to wait. I mean, I think everyone wanted that singular piece of evidence, but we're going to wait until we see all the evidence. But I don't think there's one thing that really jumps out at us at this juncture.
Okay, that's like word salad. He's giving nothing. Well, there's a lot of stuff, but there's really nothing that's jumping out. Okay, he's not even giving them like a little bit of tidbit. Nothing, not a headline, not a soundbite, nothing. DA, was there a mattress found in the vault?
I'm sorry?
Is there any indication from the evidence?
I'm sorry. Now he's taking a different question. He does not go with the mattress question. Is there any indication in the evidence of other victims?
You know, we're our investigation, focused on the Gilgo 4. We're going to continue to investigate that case and prepare that case for trial. And we have our investigation now has become public, obviously, and also it's broadened. So we're going to look at the other instances where bodies were recovered in that area as well.
Okay, so he just said a whole lot of nothing. The question was, is there any indication in the evidence of other victims? He gave no answer to that. If the answer was no, I think he might have just said no. So my gut feeling is that, yes, they have found evidence of other victims, but he just doesn't want to talk about it right now. That's my gut.
Is forensic testing continuing on Maureen Bernard Barnes, and who is conducting it, and what do you know?
Investigate.
Okay. Is forensic testing continuing on Maureen Brainerd Barnes? She is the fourth of the Gilgo 4, as they call them, who he has not been yet charged with because she was missing in 2007. Some of the electronic data did not go back that far. So he has only been indicted on 3 of the 4 bodies that were found. He's been indicted on Melissa Barthelemy, who went missing in July of 2009, Megan Waterman, who went missing in June of 2010, and Amber Costello, who went missing in September of 2010. All of the bodies were found in December of 2010. So Maureen Brainerd Barnes has not yet been charged because she went missing in July of 2007, and therefore her remains were in the marshy area of Gilgo Beach for much longer than the other victims. So the question was, is the forensic testing continuing on Maureen Brainerd Barnes? Who is conducting it, and what do you know?
Investigation is continuing with regard to Maureen Brainerd Barnes, as well as other aspects of the case, and that's being done in the grand jury or through the grand jury process. So I can't talk about that more than that.
Okay, that's being done in the grand jury or through the grand jury process. Is there a grand jury currently convened who is hearing the case with regard to Maureen Brainerd Barnes? Again, that's my gut because of the way he phrased that answer and then quickly corrected himself to say grand jury process. Grand juries are secret, so we are not supposed to know when they are meeting or when they are convened. And we don't know the answer to that question, but based on his answer, my gut says that they are currently hearing the case right now if they have not already handed down the indictment on her. So that remains to be seen.
It's being
Is the hair being forensically looked at in more than one case? If you're just tuning into this case, you might not know that Heuermann's wife's hair was found on 3 of the victims, and Heuermann's hair was found on 1 of the victims. Inside, they were wrapped in what people have described as burlap, camouflage burlap sheets that are used by duck hunters, apparently. Some people refer to them as burlap bags. My understanding is that they were more like burlap sheets that the bodies were wrapped in and then taped or belted around. So the question is that hair being forensically looked at in other cases?
There is testing going on with regard to the hairs that were mentioned in the bail letter.
Okay. The hairs that were mentioned in the bail letter, he's being very specific here, which leads me to indicate maybe they found some other hairs in the house attached to some other items that may be incriminating. So the way that he specified that in the bail letter makes me think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Clarify, he's not convicted yet.
Was there anything else found in the vault is the question.
Not convicted yet. So to clarify, are you not allowed to put his DNA into databases until after a conviction?
Okay, he did not, again, he did not take the vault question. Was anything else found in the vault? Which if he was being, polite and taking the questions in order of their being asked by the reporters who are still asking about the vault and the mattress in the vault, which he clearly does not want to answer. The question that he is going to take right now is, just to clarify, he's not convicted yet. Just to clarify, are you not allowed to put his DNA into a database until after a conviction? That's what he's answering now.
Under New York state law, that's correct.
Are you any closer to
Under New York state law, that's correct.
filing charges in that fourth case?
Are you any closer to filing charges in that fourth case?
We're working towards that, and once we're once our investigation is continuing.
Okay, so again, earlier he mentioned the grand jury and the grand jury process, and now he's talking about we're still investigating. He's muddying the waters a little bit. Are they still investigating that fourth case? Have they convened a grand jury? Are they getting ready to convene a grand jury? Again, a lot of word salad, different answers to the same question.
Tell us what else was found inside the vault besides guns, anything leading to belief of criminal activity inside.
Okay. Can you tell us what else was found inside the vault besides guns? Anything leading to believe there was criminal activity inside the vault?
The house could be categorized as cluttered. So there is a great deal of stuff that was recovered. So we're just going to have.
Okay, the house could be described as cluttered. So, okay, he's not even talking about the vault at all. Let's just listen to this question one more time, because now this is getting to me.
Stuff that was recovered. So we're just going to, once our investigation is continuing.
Can you tell us what else was found inside the vault besides guns, anything leading to belief of criminal activity inside?
Okay, were you able to hear that question? Can you tell us what else was found inside the vault besides guns? Anything leading to believe there was criminal activity inside the vault? And now he's going to talk about the clutter in the house. Hold on.
The house could be categorized as cluttered. So there is a great deal of stuff that was recovered. So we're just going to have to go through it. But it's the list of items is quite large.
Again, the list of items is quite large. That wasn't the question. Answer the question.
Inside the vault or inside the house in general? In other words, was there anything besides the firearms found inside?
She repeats her question again because she's not going to stop. And I think I know who this is. I just can't think of her name right now, but she's been covering this case since the very beginning. She lives on Long Island. She says, inside the vault or inside the house in general? In other words, was there anything besides the firearms found in the vault?
I'm not going to specifically talk about where everything was recovered in the house until all of the pictures and the reports have been gone over.
Okay, so he's not really going to specifically talk about anything until the pictures and everything have gone over. I don't understand why he decided to take questions if he wasn't going to answer the questions. Somebody said, Simdal, where is that? This guy should try politics. He'd be perfect. Well, he is. He's in politics. He's the DA. That's a political position. He was voted into that position. He had to run for office for that.
Yeah, I need to.
Storage area, or could people actually enter it?
Was the vault a storage area, or could people actually enter it?
It was a large enough area for people to enter, but like the rest of the house, it was cluttered.
Would
I
you
need to
qualify it as
clarify
like a
something.
hoarder situation? Was it how cluttered was it?
It was a cluttered. It was.
Okay, so he says it was like a hoarder type situation. It was very cluttered. Somebody said, the question was the house cluttered like a hoarder situation? How cluttered was it?
It was there was a lot of of just boxes and it was a very cluttered, I would say, environment.
Is he trying to be nice and not say that it's a hoarder type situation, or is there so much evidence and so many boxes full of stuff that he's just kind of blown away by it? It's hard to tell.
I need to clarify something, please, because he's not convicted, can you not check his DNA against the 6 other people found along Ocean Park?
Okay. DA, I need to clarify something, please, because he's not convicted. Can you not check his DNA against the 6 other people found along Ocean Parkway?
I didn't say that.
I didn't say that. Semantics. He's right. He didn't say that. And that's why he's choosing his words so carefully, because he doesn't want to be misquoted. So it's a good thing she asked the question a different way so that she could get the proper answer.
That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, you asked me about the database. The database is national, and that has you know, I am not the members of our task force are not the guardians of that database. But with what we can do with regard to our own investigation is completely different. So you can't, one doesn't necessarily have to do with the other. That makes sense.
Okay, so I think what he's saying is that until there's a conviction, these suspects' DNA cannot be entered into CODIS. That's what I think he's saying. But he's saying, but because we arrested him in New York and he is arrested and charged with and indicted with these murders, we can use his DNA in the state databases to check it against the DNA that we have from these other unsolved cases along Ocean Parkway because it's part of this investigation. If anybody, law enforcement in the chat knows what he's trying to say, please chime in.
Sense.
DA, I came in a little late. Were any human remains found?
No.
DA, I came in a little late. Were any human remains found? And he says no.
Well, what I would say is we're still going over the trace evidence, but you know, they were asking about with regard to the excavation in the back, if there were any large items of evidence recovered, and the answer to that question is no.
Okay. Okay. Were there any human remains found? No. Wait. Walk it back, walk it back, walk it back, backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. What I meant to say was we have trace evidence. I'm specifically referring to, were there any large items found in the backyard? So there you go.
What evidence in the backyard of things being
Or
burned?
an alleged crime scene?
I'm sorry?
Do you consider this home a crime scene or an alleged crime scene at this?
Do you consider this home a crime scene or an alleged crime scene at this point?
I consider this a home in which we execute a search warrant.
That's a great way to not answer the question, isn't it? Do you consider this home a crime scene or an alleged crime scene? I consider this home to be one on which we've executed a search warrant.
Is there any evidence in the backyard of things being burned?
Was there any evidence in the backyard of things being burned?
I can't specifically say one way or the other.
Can you tell us
What does that indicate to you? I can't specifically say one way or the other. Several neighbors were interviewed saying that this guy, who, by the way, has lived in this house his entire life, I think, except for the period of time during his first marriage, which was from around 1990 to 1993. The records show that Heuermann bought the house from his mother in 1994 or thereabouts, and he's lived there ever since. The neighbors have reported that he has been burning what they thought was garbage constantly in the backyard of that house, as well as digging holes around the backyard of that house. So he's not going to answer that question either.
what led up to the decision then to excavate? Was there any tangible cause or was it routine?
Okay. Can you tell us what led up to the decision then to excavate? Was there any tangible cause or was it routine? That's a great question.
So there was ground, technology that was able to see through the ground, and there were a number of disturbances that were found in the ground. But until you dig it up, you don't know what it is.
Disturbances found in the ground. Does that mean that there had been holes dug there before, like the neighbors were saying, and so there was some evidence that the holes were dug, and maybe that was the unsettling that he's talking about in the ground? But here is where he says something quite interesting.
What do you mean by this? How would you
Like a disturbance could be like a cistern or you know a branch or
Solid object.
yeah a bicycle, anything that's buried under the ground.
A bicycle? A cistern, a branch, or a bicycle? I mean, if I was going to pick three things that might be underground that would cause me to dig, I don't know that a bicycle would be one of them. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice of words there. Anybody agree?
You can see the impression of it, but you don't necessarily know what it is until you dig it up.
And then where does the investigation stand with the number of sex workers who now say they were contacted by him?
And where does the investigation stand with the number of sex workers who now say they were contacted by Heuermann?
So when we started our investigation, we did it through the grand jury. That investigation was we wanted to maintain the secrecy of the grand jury investigation. Obviously, that now that there's been an arrest, it's become public. So we are interviewing a great many people.
Is there a number?
Okay, so I guess a lot more people have come forward since they did the grand jury investigation. My understanding was that the grand jury was convened in October sometime. And there were a lot of witnesses that testified, but it seems to me from what he's saying or not saying that a lot of people have come forward and that they are interviewing them now.
We're interviewing a great many people, but we're going to keep what our conversations, what if any conversations we have with our witnesses between us and the witnesses.
And yeah, that's absolutely correct. They should not be talking about what the witnesses are saying to him. But the question that he was answering was, is there a number of more than two at this point of people who say that he contacted them? So he said they're talking to a lot of people. He's just not going to tell us what they're saying. And I completely agree with him there.
And these witnesses are coming from different states.
Are these witnesses coming from different states?
I'm sorry?
Are these witnesses coming from different states?
I don't think that this investigation is limited to New York State, certainly.
Regarding
Okay, there you go. It's not limited to New York State. So I think they're hearing from people all over. That's interesting. But also we've suspected this as well. He's got property in multiple states. There are multiple serial killers with similar patterns, maybe at least just one that I could think of, maybe two, in other states during the span that if he started early in his 20s, he could be connected to. There could be information coming in. Again, there's going to be a lot of tips coming in. A lot of them are relevant and real. A lot of them could be hoaxes or fake or just lead to nothing. So I mean, I can understand how they're sifting through tons and tons of tips right now.
the Chevy Avalanche, you have often spoken about March 14th, 2022 as being the watershed moment. You were able to identify him as a suspect. There's been a lot of talk in the last 12 days about clues missed early on, like that this car wasn't looked at. I mean, can you explain why that may have happened?
Okay. Her question is, regarding the Chevy Avalanche, you have often spoken about March 14th, 2022 as being the watershed moment when you were able to identify him as a suspect. There's been a lot of talk in the last 12 days about clues missed early on, like that his car wasn't looked at. Can you explain why that might have happened?
Pretty extensively in our bail letter.
Okay, that's not true. They really didn't explain that at all in the bail letter. All they did was explain what happened from the point where their task force was formed in January of 2022, not what happened back in 2010 when the bodies were discovered and witnesses were interviewed that gave the description of that vehicle. So again, he's trying to shift subject change, subtle subject change, but I picked up on it. Did you?
For us, for our task force. Our task force started February 1st, 2022. 6 weeks later, we had identified this individual as a target, and we talked about a number of factors which allowed us to do that. The hairs that we spoke about, the 5 hairs of note with regard to the bodies, those were recovered shortly after the bodies were recovered in December of 2010. With regard to the phone evidence, that work was done and completed by the FBI in early 2012, and
Okay, so they had the phone evidence since 2012. There's been some misunderstanding, I think, about this. I think that some people thought that the phone evidence was just discovered in 2022. He's saying that it was discovered in 2012, and that the description of Heuermann and of Heuermann's green first edition Chevy Avalanche was obtained in 2010.
With regard to the Avalanche, that information was made available shortly after the disappearance of Amber Costello. But again, when you look at everything, that is three items that are in and amongst thousands of items. So,
stop. 3 items that are in and amongst thousands of items. These items came from the last person to see Amber Costello alive. If that tip and that description of that person and that vehicle are not afforded more weight than random tips that they are getting through an 800 tip line, I just can't even believe that he just said that again. And this is like the 3rd time I've heard him say this. And you got to walk it back, dude. You got to walk it back and say there were problems. People didn't look into this. There was corruption in Suffolk County. He's not going to say it. He's just not going to say it.
So I think retrospectively, it's kind of simple to look at, but when you're looking at everything, all the evidence at once, it's an enormous undertaking, and that's why to guarantee success, you bring in really talented investigators from a whole bunch of different agencies. You use the resources of those agencies, and you work together on a daily basis.
Okay, there it is, folks. He didn't say it, but he said it. In 2010, they did not call in the FBI. They did not call in the NYPD. They did not call in Nassau County. They did not call in the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. They did not call in anybody because, I don't want to tell you something you don't already know here, but he went to jail for it. The police commissioner at the time, James Burke of Suffolk County, was eventually arrested and thrown in jail for obstruction of justice, among other things. There were some witnesses who said that he was having relations with, let's say, escorts in his police vehicle, that it's proven that there was a bag of items found in the backseat of his police vehicle that were snuff films, porn, toys, etc. But that's not what he's saying here, but we live here and we know that. So why are we trying to hide that fact? Maybe some people who are watching this story don't know about that, but it's a fact. And the DA at the time also went to prison for covering for Burke. His name's Tom Spoda. Look it up. And people in the chat are saying, can't go back, moving ahead. Well, let's just hope that there aren't more bodies that happened between 2010 and 2023 when this guy was arrested. Let's hope.
People in this neighborhood who say it was more than a year, so March of 2022, you made a point of saying that in court. The people we interview in the neighborhood who say, well, okay, it was a year, more than a year, and then he's living through all that time. What do you say to the residents?
Okay. Her question was, the people in this neighborhood say it was more than a year in March of 2022 that you made a point of saying in court that that's when they identified him as a suspect, she meant to say. And the people in this neighborhood say, well, okay, so for more than a year, he's been living here all that time, meaning, there's been a serial killer living in our neighborhood that you knew about, was a suspect over a year ago, 18 months ago. What do you say to the residents?
Well, I'm saying to the residents that a 13-year-old cold case doesn't get solved in a matter of weeks or days. The DNA evidence in and of itself was a very lengthy, arduous process, which required the cooperation of a number of agencies, and unfortunately, these things take time. Also, the grand jury process in New York State, in order to charge somebody, you need to charge them, and you need to, in a case of this nature, with the different moving parts, you need to go into the grand jury, and unfortunately, that doesn't happen overnight.
Was there a mattress found?
I'm sorry?
Was there a mattress found in the vault?
Okay, so was there a mattress found in the vault? Again, same question. And he was right about the DNA evidence. That took a long time to get. I mean, I get that.
There were a number of items of evidence, but I'm not going to specifically say where any one item of evidence was found in the house.
Okay, again, not answering the mattress in the vault question. There were a lot of items found in the house. I'm just not going to say where they were found. He's saying it without saying it. Were guns returned to the home tonight?
No guns were returned to the home. To my knowledge, we all of the guns that were recovered, and we're talking about 283, about approximately 279 weapons were recovered. They're being categorized. Some may not some may not be complete weapons. Some may not be able to be defined as a weapon under New York State law. But suffice to say, there was quite a few weapons found in the house.
You see him wiping off the sweat off his brow. He's like, oh man, I thought I would take questions, but these questions are really getting to me. I really don't want to answer these questions. So 279 weapons. Some of them may not be considered guns under the law. Some of them may be considered guns under the law. So it's going to depend. If they're antiques, they may not need to be registered. The point that I made last night was that under New York State law, certain guns are required to be registered. Apparently that's not the case in many, many, many states. So if you're watching this from another state where you are permitted to have as many guns as you want without registering them, that is not the law in New York. In New York, all handguns and anything that's defined under New York State law as an assault weapon, and there's a very, very long description of what an assault weapon is, must be registered. So what he has said here is, I think that he had 97 registered guns. There were 279 found altogether, but that some of those may not have been considered weapons under the law, antiques, black powder, some other things like that he mentions. But the importance of this is that if there were weapons or guns that he had that were supposed to be registered that were not, that could lead to additional charges. So that even if they can't get him on these murders or every murder, perhaps some gun charges would be a slam dunk. So I think that's the importance of that. He's not saying that. That's what I'm thinking. What is preventing you right now from bringing charges in the fourth Gilgo case?
The investigation hasn't been concluded.
Have you spoken to the family? Are you aware if they're going to come home once this investigation is
So,
have you spoken to the family? Are you aware if they are going to be coming home, or, and then he cut her off with his answer.
So we informed the family. Obviously, they're represented by counsel. So we've spoken to counsel.
And they intend to return to the home?
That would be.
Would they be allowed to?
That would.
And they intend to return to the home? Are they allowed to? He says they're represented by counsel. I don't know who their counsel is. If anybody knows who their counsel is and wants to put it in the chat. I don't know if he's assuming that his soon-to-be ex-wife's divorce attorney is representing them, because she did file for divorce very quickly after he was in custody and after he was arraigned. So I don't know if that's the attorney he's referring to.
Would be a question for their counsel. And
Will they be allowed to?
once we've withdrawn.
A lot of people have asked about the family. Could they have known anything? Do you have any indication at this point that they had any awareness of this?
The question is, a lot of people have asked about the family. Do you have any indication at this point that they had any awareness of this?
There's no indication, specifically that they had knowledge. And as we said in our bail letter, during the commission of the 3 latter murders of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, they specifically were out of the state and traveling during the time of those 3 victims' disappearance.
Okay. What he did not say in that soundbite was whether or not they were out of town during the disappearance of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, who he has yet to be indicted on. Maureen Brainerd Barnes was the young lady who disappeared in July of 2007. Thank you, Fremont Pathfinder, for the $5 super sticker. Thank you for your coverage and analysis. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Oh, there's a couple up here. Hold on a second. Darlene Wolf, thank you so much for the 99-cent super sticker. And Darlene Wolf again on the 99-cent super sticker. Thank you very much.
What struck you as circumstantially interesting or bizarre about the stuff that you dug up, or the house itself? I mean, what stood out to you about this that might, in a sense, reveal something in the character of the alleged?
Okay, he stumbled over his words a lot, so I had to listen to this with headphones on like 5 times to get what this question was. But what struck you as substantially interesting or bizarre about the house itself? What stood out to you? Did it reveal something in the character of the alleged suspect?
I don't, we as prosecutors and investigators, we don't really deal in like feelings or, we deal in facts. So what we've done is we've acquired a lot of information. So what we're going to do now is what we've been doing all along is we're going to work with our partners. We're going to go through that material and we're going to see what, if any, way it fits into the case.
About how many pieces of evidence?
Oh God, it's a tremendous amount of information that was I'll say this, a tremendous amount of information that was derived in conjunction with the searches incident to arrest.
About how many pieces of evidence did you retrieve? And he went on and on, a tremendous amount.
I'm sorry? Again,
was there anything pertinent found in the storage units? They found 2 storage units that were registered to Heuermann in Amityville, which is a town on Long Island, not too far from Massapequa Park. And they did examine those storage units. They did inventory them. They removed a lot of items from them. And there's video one day of the Suffolk County medical examiner's truck present at the scene of one of the storage units.
And we're going, once we complete the process, we're going to, we're going to have further word with regard to that. But what you have to understand is we were looking for, tangible items of evidence as well as trace evidence, including blood and DNA and hair fibers and the like. And when you talk about something like that, that is a process that it takes a while for that process to be analyzed by the experts. So that's going to take a while.
Okay, so I think he's saying they found stuff in the storage units, but he's just not sure yet if it's pertinent because it needs to be tested and go through all of the procedures that are required to test it, whether it's DNA or hair or fibers or anything else. But other than that, he really didn't answer the question about anything else pertinent found in the storage unit, which I really don't expect him to do. I don't expect him to stand here and tell us everything that they found.
Have you ruled out the possibility that the murders occurred here? Have you ruled out that?
We haven't ruled in.
Have you ruled out the possibility that the murders occurred here? We've all been speculating about this as well, because oftentimes serial killers like to have full and total control over their kill sites. And if he did bring them back to his house, he would have had total control over his kill or torture sites, especially since his wife and kids were out of town during the time that these young ladies disappeared. So there has been a lot of speculation about that, especially based on the amount of time that they were at the house recovering all this evidence. So here's the question. Have you ruled out the possibility that the murders occurred here?
We haven't ruled out anything with regard to that.
We have not ruled out anything with regard to that. Yes, it could have. It could have happened there. Maybe they didn't, but they could have. If they didn't happen there, he might have just said no to that question. You can answer me. Law enforcement guys, I know there's a bunch of you in the chat.
Find any
DA,
trophies?
that means that maybe there
Did you find any trophies? He ignores that question.
was human remains or something in the house, since everything is so up in the air. Maybe there was some blood droppings.
Well, as
Okay. This is a follow-up to his answer. She asks, does that mean that maybe there were human remains or something in the house? Maybe there was some blood droppings?
as I said, that we look for trace evidence, and that we have that is a process that is a scientific process that is done in a lab, and we just haven't had the time to go through that process. So it's incomplete. So you can't say anything more than it's incomplete.
So that's true. It does take a long time, and I think that so many people are used to watching 1 hour, episodic television shows that are everything is solved within an hour, and you get your DNA back in an hour. It's just not like that. It takes a long time. What interests me here is I'm wondering if they found anything recent, or if whatever they found required luminol or some other chemicals to show blood stains or blood spatter or other trace evidence. I'm not sure.
Did you find anything that would be characterized?
Were all of them related to firearms, or was there another type of weapon?
We're talking.
You mentioned that you found a lot of weapons. Were all of them firearms, or is there another type of weapon?
Specifically talking about what would commonly be referred to as a firearm.
No other street weapon.
No, and the only reason why I sort of hedge with that is because under New York state law, like a black powder, what the public would say that's a gun. Well, under New York state law, that might not necessarily qualify as a weapon, or under federal law certainly.
Do you have any information of the search of the brother's home in South Carolina, or do you know if they searched the brother's home in South Carolina?
I have nothing to provide with regard to the brother's house in South Carolina. I have no information. I have no comment with regard to what's going on in South Carolina. It's not my jurisdiction. We are.
It's not my jurisdiction. I have no idea what's going on in South Carolina. The words, again, chosen very carefully, but that means to me, there's something going on in South Carolina. It's not his jurisdiction. He doesn't want to talk about it. But, we're just reading between the lines here, and that's what we're doing. We're going through this question, answer to see what we can decipher from it. And look, this is just my opinion. It may not be right. I'm not saying that I'm right.
We are, for all intents and purposes, done with the search.
Okay, so they are done with the search at the Heuermann home in Massapequa Park. That's what he said, for all intents and purposes. She said, well, like, when does all this stuff get moved out? Like all the trucks and all the workers and all of the equipment, backhoes, etc.
Very soon.
Okay.
Very soon, like today.
We're going to rely on the Suffolk County crime lab. They're going to do it, withdraw at a time that they deem appropriate. But as far as the search of the house, for all intents and purposes, that has been concluded.
And I'm wondering if that was a reporter that asked that question, because it looks like they're at the scene. I can see the trucks in the background, or if that was a neighbor saying, when are you going to get everybody out of here? We want our neighborhood back. And they did have a meeting last night at Massapequa Village Hall, which we'll talk about after this press conference. Were the floorboards removed at any point?
I'm not going to get into the specifics with regard to the search.
That indicates to me, yes. Otherwise, maybe he just would have said no.
But we were looking for trace evidence.
We were looking for trace evidence, meaning it may have turned up something if they sprayed with luminol, or they sprayed with some other chemical that indicated that there was old blood that was cleaned up. They would have to rip up the floorboards. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just saying that's a possibility.
I'm sorry?
Is that when we can expect to come into court next, August 1st?
Correct.
Is that when we can expect Heuermann in court, August 1st? And he says, correct.
You know,
What can we expect at that court date? Are we going to learn any more about the evidence or what?
we're going to be, that's just the first conference after the arraignment. So just a typical court conference. We're going to talk about discovery, providing the voluminous discovery in this case. That process is going to start. As a matter of right, defendant has a right to a bail hearing. So we'll see what happens with regard to that.
Has any of the evidence you discovered at the house led you to a theory on the manner of death?
Has any of the evidence that you discovered at the house led you to a theory on the manner of death? Hello, ATS News. Thanks for coming.
Other than what we've said at the time of arraignment, no. And the cause of death with regard to the three victims has been categorized as homicidal violence.
Okay, so homicidal violence, that doesn't, he's not specifying strangulation. It's my understanding that it was strangulation in at least 3 of the cases, or, well, he's only charged with 3. So now he's saying homicidal violence. I think, and I know I did another show, we went over the entire bail application, but now I can't remember if it specifically said strangulation, but now he's saying homicidal violence. So that's interesting to me. I do not think any of the guns were involved as a murder weapon in any of these 3, but I guess anything's possible.
Find any trophies? You had spoken about potentially looking for trophies.
We're not.
Have you found any trophies? You had spoken about potentially looking for trophies.
Going to specifically talk about specific items of evidence until everything's been cataloged and gone over. As we said, there is quite a lot of stuff.
What does that indicate to you? It indicates to me that perhaps they did find trophies.
Anything discovered at the property lead your agents to feel emotionally moved or psychologically, shifted?
Was anything discovered at the property to lead your agents to feel emotionally moved or psychologically shifted?
I think that we have a job to do, and we're also human beings. But I think that I would commend all of the examiners for their professionalism.
Yeah, that indicates to me, we have a job to do, but we're professionals, and we can't. As hard as it is to not be emotionally involved in what we find and what we see, the look on his face right there and the way he just said that indicates to me that there was some horrifying stuff in there that may have shook some of these professionals to the core. And I imagine that if you're a very experienced crime scene investigator, you've pretty much seen it all. If something shakes you to the core, it could be really horrific. I don't know. That's my gut on this.
Is it accurate to say the public, we may never know if he's guilty how he killed them because it was so long that went by?
I had trouble with this question, but I think she's saying, is it accurate to say the public may never know exactly how he killed them since it's been so long?
I think we have to let the process work out.
I'm sorry, could you tell me, is there going to be a search by Gilgo Beach or near Ocean Parkway?
Shazay, can you tell me, is there going to be a search by Gilgo Beach or Ocean Parkway? Or is there anything happening over there?
Anything happening over there?
So, we don't announce our searches before we do them. So we just can't make a comment as to, specific areas, if any, to be searched.
Has anybody driven by Gilgo Beach today? Anybody go on Ocean Parkway today? Did you notice anything? Let me know in the comments. I used to drive Ocean Parkway to work because it's a beautiful drive. It's along the ocean. You got the bay on one side, the ocean on the other. It's beautiful. It's peaceful. If anybody's been down there, especially at summertime, that's where all the beaches are. That's, Robert Moses is over there. Then you head down Ocean Parkway and you hit Toe Bay, all those beaches, Cedar Beach. Anybody? That says to me that, yeah, they're still searching and they're going to go out there and search some more.
Where was this vault in the home, and was it sort of thing that you could walk into?
It was big enough to walk into, and it was.
Where was this vault in the home, and was it the sort of thing that you could walk into?
In the basement.
In the basement.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And that's it. People greeting each other, and there you can see the scene as you look down First Street, which is where the house is. So there was a lot said, and yet nothing was said. I'm going to look to the chat for questions now because I haven't had a chance to look through here yet. But it is great that he's putting himself out there. Yeah, and that's his job. And look, I wouldn't expect him to give a lot of information, but, you know, I mean, he did what he had to do. Can't believe his family agreed to live like that with all the money he must make. You know, from what I've been hearing, he was more like an expediter for city permits. I don't know how much money he made. He owed a lot of money in income taxes. You know, some people, you know, just don't take a lot of pride in the outside of their homes. This is a place that he's lived since he was a child. So my gut feeling was that he kept his house like that because it either reminded him of his childhood, or he had a lot of secrets in that house and things buried there and stuff. And he didn't want to fix it up. He didn't want anybody else coming in to fix it up. And he certainly didn't want to sell it. Somebody said, Alpaca Renee, so technically it's not alive. They found small bone fragments in the backyard. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way I took it. Who has multiple storage units? A pack rat, I guess. Yeah. Who knows what they're going to find in there? Peter Pranzo. Tight to the vest, as law enforcement usually does with evidence collection and testing. Info will get less and less until the first hearings. Yeah, I think you're right. Or until discovery. You know, they're going to have to start exchanging discovery soon, and there's a voluminous amounts of discovery. You know, they're required to give the defense everything that they have. And it's going to be, as he said, voluminous. If they did find blood evidence, I hope it's not degraded to the point that they can't use it. Yeah, I agree. Too risky to kill them there, especially with prior victims there. Are you referring to the house, or are you referring to the dump site of Gilgo Beach? Brenda says, in my country, the police do not give bad information during an ongoing investigation. I don't know what country that is, but I believe you. An architect could have access to many locations. I hope they consider this. I agree. Scott says, I speculate that they didn't occur at the house. His neighbors would have noticed women coming and going at some point. Well, here's the thing, and I talked about this last night. He has a Chevy Avalanche, which is an SUV with a pickup truck bed that had a cover on it. If he sedated these women and had them in the back of that bed of the truck, and he backed right up to the garage. I don't have a photo of the house, but you could back right up to the garage, open the garage, pull something out of the back of that truck, get it through the house, and then into the basement. The basement was one of those storm cellar basements with the Bilco doors where you have to go outside to get in. There was no inside entrance to it. Would he have wanted control over his kill site? I don't know. And listen, innocent until proven guilty. I'm not saying he's guilty. He's just a suspect at this point. But all the research that I've done on serial killers is that they like to have full control over their kill site. So I can't see that he would kill them in a hotel where there would be people, you know, walking around, or strangers, or any other environment that he couldn't control, like a motel, even in the woods or in the marsh. I feel like the beach was his dump site, but you know, hey, I could be wrong. And his neighbors, the guy was burning garbage and digging holes for, 25 years, and nobody ever called the cops or reported him to the town or anything. So who knows what was going on there that they didn't report. It sounded like these neighbors were really minding their own business, except for the next door neighbor, who said that Rex used to spy on his wife when she was sunbathing several times. And eventually he had to go over there and have a little chat with him about spying on his wife in her bikini. So it sounds like the neighbors kind of kept to themselves, but now they're all coming out and talking about all the crazy stuff that he was doing. And yeah, hindsight's always 2020. Yes, please hit the like button. It is free. It's free to hit the like button. And also, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe and hit the bell. That's free too. So then you'll get notified when I upload new videos or go live. You know, I feel really bad for the family because, and I said this last night too, in my opinion, a lot of people are speculating, did the wife know? How could she not have known? I think this guy, if not physically abusive, may have been emotionally abusive. He may have terrorized his wife and children, and they may have been under such a weird sort of control that they did not know what was going on. It was just, you know, that was their normal. You know, they lived in a house where dad wasn't around a lot. He came home late or he went out early duck hunting. He did some strange stuff. He had this basement that he didn't want anybody to go into. But, you know, I think maybe it's the last thing you would ever think of is that your dad or your husband is a serial killer. She might have thought, the wife might have thought maybe he was cheating on her, and maybe she was like so emotionally, you know, screwed up by this relationship that she didn't really care and she didn't want to see and she didn't know. But now they've been displaced and they don't have a place to live, and they can't go back to that house because there's going to be all kinds of looky-loos and all kinds of, you know, what they're calling grief tourists that are going to want to come by the house and take a look and peek in the windows and knock on the door. And where are they going to go? You know, it doesn't look like they really have any money. Is there a GoFundMe for these people? Like, his family are victims too. And I think that we have to remember that. And it's really, really, really sad. Kim, did I hear the medical examiner was called to one of the storage units? If so, in New York, would an ME be called out for anything other than a body? You know, I speculated about this before, and maybe remains of some kind. You know, Suffolk County is a very busy county. Would they call the ME there just in case they found something? My gut says no. If anybody has any information to the contrary, or anybody worked for the Suffolk County ME's office or the coroner's office, you know, certainly chime in and let me know if you think they would have sent the ME there without some sort of reason, some sort of solid reason. Trust me, he was that controlling that his wife and kids would not have gone near whatever he kept them out of. Yeah, I have that feeling too. And I feel like, you know, people who are in abusive relationships stay in them for various reasons. I don't think it's for anyone to judge why this woman stayed or didn't go to the police or whether she suspected anything or not. You know, the fact that she filed for divorce within 5 seconds of him being put into custody speaks volumes to me. You know, there was no question in her mind that she wanted to get away from this guy. And now that he was finally locked him in a cage, she could finally breathe. You know, she finally could do it. And, you know, it just really, really sad. Like, I feel for the kids. They don't need it, you know, they're going to need to change their names at some point. I mean, Heuermann is a name that will be forever associated with this investigation and with this guy. And it's not like their name is Smith, you know, it's very, very, very sad. Lucy on the go. Homicidal violence is the worst of the worst. Great physical harm. So very, very sad, heartbreaking, and a terrifying way to go. Yeah. I mean, and we don't even know if he held on to them and you know, tortured him. We don't know if it was instantaneous. My feeling is that he's a sadistic monster and that he would have gotten some pleasure out of some form of torture. I don't know. That's only speculation, but it's a pretty scary thought. He's a psycho. Yeah, he could have controlled that family in a bad way. I agree. Roger, how, when, and why was James Burke ruled out as a suspect in any of the actual murders? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is that he did go to prison for obstruction of justice and for threatening officers to not testify against him or talk to internal affairs regarding an incident that happened in 2012 where he allegedly well, he pled guilty. So let's say he did it. He assaulted a guy who was being interrogated in an interrogation room, who had stolen that duffel bag that I was talking about earlier out of the back seat of his truck. You know, there's been rampant speculation for years that perhaps Burke didn't want to get involved in this investigation because he knew one or more of the victims on Gilgo Beach and perhaps had used their services before and did not want the investigation getting too close to him. And that's why he didn't call in the FBI or any other outside investigative bodies. But that I don't know about. All I know is what he pled guilty to and that he spent, I think, 4 or 5 years in jail for. There was also reported that there was last night in Massapequa Park Village Hall, there was a village meeting because the residents of this neighborhood are getting upset that their neighborhood has been kind of disrupted, and about 25 to 30 people showed up. And they, there's a quote in here from Nassau County Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder. So Massapequa Park, where Heuermann lived, is Nassau County. The bodies were found in Suffolk County. They are the 2 counties on Long Island. Suffolk is the easternmost county, and Nassau is western. People say Queens is part of Long Island too, but I guess technically it is. So Patrick Ryder said, the county executive has made it very clear that we are protecting the neighborhood and we are not allowing this to turn into a sideshow. If you don't live on that street or are visiting someone on that street and you're there to stop and take pictures and break the law, you will be issued a summons, no questions asked. He gave out a number that residents should call if they're expecting visitors to the block, and stressed that those that do not belong will be issued a fine of $150. So I guess it was unclear whether it was just people who walked there or people who drove there or what. So they're going to start handing out tickets of $150. So Ron, if you want to go back to First Street, I suggest you do that quickly because he said they're packing up and leaving. And we don't want to have to raise all the super checks for the $150 ticket that you might get. Joey Brooklyn says cameras will be installed on the block. Yes, I heard that too. That was also in the article. And Suffolk County will not allow gawkers. There'll be a $150 fine if they catch you taking pictures. Yep, you are correct. So again, duty run, get out there and get all your pictures in. So let's see, we are over an hour. We're almost at an hour and 15. So if anybody has any pressing questions that they want to ask me, I'm going to run through here. Keith, is it possible he could kill only when his family was out of town? If that's the case, the family would have no idea. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what he's been doing since 2010. You know, do serial killers just stop? I mean, there's some evidence, I think, that BTK did take like a 10-year hiatus from killing and satisfied his urges in other ways by drawing about it and you know, fantasizing about it. So I don't know. Renee says, I think several people are involved, especially with hiring the girls, or the driver should know something. I don't know. I mean, we've seen other cases where a single serial killer can be a sadistic SOB and do this by himself. I don't know that there necessarily needs to be anybody else involved, but who knows? And Danielle chiming in on the wife situation, or he picks on the vulnerable. From my understanding, this second wife hasn't been around for that long. No, they've been married for, I think, now I'm getting my cases mixed up, but I want to say they were married in something like 1994. So it's something like over 20 years. Rex doesn't seem like the type to get a strong woman mentally or physically. He was married. He had a 3-year marriage in 1990. He married a girl from New Jersey. They lived in New Jersey, I think, during that time. And that was a 3-year marriage. And then they divorced, no kids. And then he married his second wife, Asa Ellerup, who had a son from a previous marriage, and they have a daughter together. I think she's around 26 years old. And she has been around for quite some time. She is, from what I understand, Icelandic. She's from Iceland. I don't know what their dynamic was, but I'm gonna guess that it wasn't good. I mean, this guy's 6'6". We didn't even show any pictures of him tonight, but he is he's been described as looking like an ogre, and he is very Shrek-like in appearance. There's really no other way to say it. You know, you see him standing next to the detectives and other law enforcement, and he dwarfs them. And he is physically intimidating and imposing. And there's a video that was out of an interview that he did with I think a French real estate agent or something that was on YouTube, and then it got taken down. And then Duty Ron said that he wanted to play the video on his show, and the guy wanted $5,000 for him to play the video. Like, it was insane, but it is still all over the news, and you can find it. And you can see how he's trying to be so affable and charming in the video, but that there's just some hidden sort of scary aspect to him. And he's a very imposing, scary figure. There have been women who have had dates with him who've come out and spoken about it too. So I don't want to get too far off the track here. I really just kind of wanted to cover this press conference, and we're already at 1:15. So somebody did say something about whether or not these women were found barefoot, like the Eastbound Strangler. And if you haven't seen it, I did do a show on the Eastbound Strangler recently, and whether, you know, what the similarities were between this case and that case. And the Eastbound Strangler victims were 4 girls who were also escorts. They were found before these victims, I believe in 2006. They were all barefoot, and they were all facing east. And that's why he was called the Eastbound Strangler. So they have said in this investigation that these girls were found without a significant piece of clothing. I do not know if that was their shoes. If we find out that it is, I mean, we'll see. Okay, so if anybody else has any questions, again, please hit the like button. Feel free to share the video, and let me know what you think in the comments. Please don't come for me in the comments, because I will block you and delete the comments. So please be respectful to each other. I do like to open up a friendly dialogue and debate. So please be respectful to each other and to me. No personal attacks, or you will be blocked and deleted. So guide your actions accordingly. You have been warned. Did they say what they may have found in or on his property? No. If you go back and rewind and watch my video from the beginning, he really said a whole bunch of nothing, but we read between the lines and kind of said what we think he might be actually saying. But we do know that the Daily Mail headline that they found bones in the backyard was not accurate. So they may have found pieces of bones, they may have found trace evidence, but that clickbaity type headline this morning was not accurate. Although the drone footage that they had of it kind of looked like they were burned bones in the pit. So who am I to say? News is news. All right. If that is all for now, I will see you guys again real soon. Everybody, oops, yank. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for watching. And thank you so much to all of my moderators in the chat. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Thank you to all of my subscribers. I couldn't do it without you either. So please keep on keeping on. Have a great week, everyone. Good night.